day. I'm Lisa Rowe, and welcome to Get the Facts. Today, we're focusing on what's ahead for Jamaica's education sector, particularly the national push to improve literacy among our children. Joining us is Shauna Murray, Enrichment Program Specialist with the National Literacy Team in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. She's here to share insights on International Literacy Day and how this global observance can support efforts to boost literacy among our students. Ms. Murray, thank you so much for being here. We're happy to have you. Now, let's dive right in. I'm excited about this topic. What is International Literacy Day? When is it observed? And why is it important for us to recognize this day?
Could I start with your third question?
Sure.
It's important for us to recognize this day for advocacy. The more we advocate for change, is the greater the change happens. Just to say quickly, in the 1950, 40% of the world was literate. Because of a lot of advocacy, including the International Literacy Day that was started by UNESCO in the 1960s. Because of that, we are now at a stage where 87.8% of the world's younger population up to 2023 is now literate. Now, a lot of advocacy would have led to that happening, right? So International Literacy Day then is that day on September 8th, celebrated every year across the world, where everybody is encouraged to, celebrate the thrust for literacy and to help our communities and children to really recognize and note the value of being literate.
All right, so you said you want everyone to join in and recognize. Can you tell us some of the activities that are planned for the day?
Yes, well, the Ministry of Education, normally, every year we send out a bulletin that speaks to activities that schools and stakeholders can participate in. And this year is no different. So the bulletin speaks to such things as small as wear a word for the day, or to collaborate with your local libraries and, engage individuals in getting enrolled in a library because, books are still there and ready to be enjoyed. This year, one of those activities speaks directly to the theme, which is promoting literacy in the midst of the digital world right there, digital divide. So looking at that, one of the activities being suggested is to bring together students and have them discuss the whole matter of ethics in the use of all of the social media that they get involved in. Because, we can't engage with social media if we cannot read, and if we cannot write. We send all these text messages, we write our scripts for TikTok, we write our YouTube scripts. And so in the midst of that, we ought to be able to be ethical and to be moral in terms of how our society views morality. So getting people, even from grade 3, to talk about some of the little things that can be done to ensure that as we engage in the digital era with our literacy skills, we also participate in a way that is moral, ethical, and yes, still remaining fun. So we're asking schools this year to help students to engage in that kind of discussion, whether it be a panel discussion or to do little video clips to show how this can be done. That's one of the key activities, and there are others.
So it is putting literacy in a practical sense for children to understand the importance of it in, simple communication with the digital era that we're experiencing as we speak. Yeah. All right, so how does the observance align with Jamaica's national education and development goals?
That's a big question. All right, by 2030, as we are aware, we want citizens who can function adequately in a global space. Now, that is my summary of the 2030 goals. We are really looking for citizens who will function adequately in a global space. when our stakeholders get on board and support a thrust for literacy, they allow people to become functionally literate. Now, let me just do a quick, what one would say, let's just bring in a little knowledge here. Language arts and literacy are two different things. Language arts will look into things such as grammar, the English language grammar, whereas Spanish grammar is a little bit different and French grammar is different. So language arts is a little bit more technical. Well, literacy, while it is not simplistic, it's somewhat simple in that it gives individuals access. Do I know what a word means in context? Can I use it in my everyday language? Can I access that word? Can I say it? Can I work it out? Do I comprehend the context in which it is used? No, that makes me a functional citizen. Am I therefore able to write a basic sentence about myself or to speak about myself using the correct words? No, even a matter of justice can be accessed if someone is literate. So to go back to your question, when it is that we advocate for literacy, we are actually advocating for individuals to be able to be more humane in what they are able to access. And so we ask stakeholders to champion this cause so that as we move towards the 2030 goals, individuals will see where they fit in the society and are able to express themselves and are able to assist others to do so. Let's say, I don't want to use the word functional again, in a more adequate way.
Functional is just sufficient, right? Because we're using words in context.
Yes.
All right, so you touched on how important it is in everyday life. So what are some of the barriers that you would see preventing Jamaica from getting full literacy or achieving it?
When I consider it, by the way, my supervisor, Dr. Andre Hill, who is a national literacy coordinator and was quite passionate about literacy, he's always saying that while we have much to achieve, we don't want to consider that we are in a crisis. The more knowledge we have, the more we'll be able to manage the factors that are challenging and to improve the factors that are of benefit to us. So take that back to your question. There are two things that we could look at. We have some social barriers and we have neurological barriers. So a child might be born with nutritional deficiency that could possibly affect how the brain works, all right? And then there are other things, other deficiencies that affect how the brain works. So a child might have dyslexia, which is a difficulty processing particular pieces of language. And it happens with numeracy too, where it's called that, so they have difficulty with processing. Now, we can't teach a child like that the same way we teach everybody else. And there are social barriers. Whereas depending on the environment that a person is in, they may not get the preparatory skills that are needed to quickly gain literacy. Now, I work as an enrichment program specialist, so I work with those children and the practitioners who help them, who can perform far below their peers or far above. Now, those barriers affect that particular set quite often. So we have to ensure that they have the preparatory skills. What are they learning in their environment? What are they picking up? Are they exposed to words or are they not exposed to words? Does a child just learn differently? We need to look out for such things. Or are there neurological challenges? So, I hope I managed to answer the question.
Yes, you have, and you've segued beautifully in what we hope to discuss after the break. So we'll have more of this discussion with Shauna Murray. She's the Enrichment Program Specialist with the National Literacy Team in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. When we return, stay with us. Welcome back to Get the Facts. I'm Lisa Rowe, your host. So far, we've explored what International Literacy Day is, when it will be celebrated, and how the initiative fits into Jamaica's broader national education goals. Now, let's turn our attention to the role of community support in advancing literacy. You started before. Let's touch on the enrichment program, then we will jump into the role that parents play. So the enrichment program is closely aligned to the literacy program. Can you just give us in a very short nutshell how that relationship works?
Well, the enrichment program sits directly under the National Literacy Program. In 2007, the National Comprehensive Literacy Program was rolled out. Of course, it was in play before, but it was compacted and rolled out in 2007. And there are 12 pillars, which we can't get into now, but one of those pillars is stakeholder support in what one would call a stratified manner. Now, as a part of that, Digicel Foundation came on board and sponsored what we call enrichment centers and resource rooms. What that does is that children are pulled out of their regular classes, those who need that kind of support, especially those who perform below or those who perform above, and they are given skills that help, well, those foundational skills that build not only literacy, but also numeracy where necessary, or if it is that they have some gaps in their curriculum areas. And the children who are likely gifted and have pulled back into themselves, or their behaviors are just different. Some of them are what one would call somewhat a little bit socially out.
Yes.
But they are taken into these centers and they are worked with, and so their skills develop. A lot of them, the majority, lack foundational literacy skills, even the gifted ones.
I'm happy you touched on that, because this now goes into the role of our parents and even community members, because I'm a mommy and I'm sure parents out there want to know, how can I help my child to become literate from a very, very young age, from the, as I say, you come out of the womb.
All right. I'm smiling because, and I know many people will chuckle at this, the first thing to do is to encourage without the belt. Right? We just have to say, because some of us, if we weren't able to read that word, I don't know what era you grew up in. We're talking about the digital era now with literacy, but back in our day, you'd better know that word, right? There are ways to encourage outside of saying, go pick up your book, One of the things to do is to actually read to the children at an early age. And I'm not suggesting that you have to read the entire newspaper, but just read even while they're in the womb. And small ones around you, read short books, what we call picture books. We call them children's stories. Read to them. And something that is crucial, have a lot of discussions with them. In my day, you would say, go sit down. You ask too much questions. No. The questions are ways that the brain begins to make connections. So answer those questions and expose them to literature, expose them to pictures in the newspaper. In terms of being a little bit more precise, one of the things that a parent can do at home is to label. Label the table, label the chair, label the refrigerator. Not label everything, but label those three. In a few weeks' time, you'll find, and make references to them, in a few weeks' time, you'll find that your child is able, for the most part, is able to recognize that word in print. I'm not saying get them to be spelling it. No, just label. And you remove those labels and change. Another thing a parent can do is to get involved. There are many organizations. I mentioned the Digicel Foundation because they do a lot of funding of the enrichment program, but there are other organizations and they're looking for volunteers. Schools also need volunteers. Teachers have a lot that they're doing, and some of our parents, if a parent is unemployed, I would encourage them to go in and be a teacher's assistant. Yes, you would have to make sure that your criminal record is fine and so on, because we have to protect our children. But there are opportunities to volunteer. The enrichment centers, for example, they could do with that kind of support, and grade 1 teachers in particular. So you could volunteer to help a teacher once a week. That's another way to do it. And you could also volunteer at Sunday school, because children also learn their Sunday school, Sabbath school, and the other clubs that are there. Volunteer. And finally, start a little book club in your backyard.
Yes.
You know, get those nice books at the library and take children to the library and start a little book club.
Start early. Get them reading. No baby
Yes.
talk. Use sentences.
Yes.
Use sentences. That's important.
Yes.
All right. So how is the ministry working with schools and libraries and NGOs to reach more people? Because
Well, through one of the ministries, I'll give you two. One thing that the Ministry of Education does is that there are the school librarians, and those school librarians actually visit schools and work with the schools to provide books that will allow students to have this array, you know, so that their interest can be built in subjects of wide different things. You know, just get excited.
yes.
The school librarians actually do a lot to excite students about what is available in books and those stories. So that is one thing that the Ministry of Education does. The other thing that it has done in terms of policy, you know, the National Literacy Team was brought into fore, as I mentioned, in the 2000s, and the ministry has maintained having this dedicated, could I call them a group of soldiers on the ground?
Foot soldiers.
Foot soldiers. Foot soldiers that work with schools to some things as simple as suggesting what can help one child,
yes.
to looking at how to assist teachers to be more precise in how they instruct in literacy skills, and other things in terms of advocacy, such as International Literacy Day, garnering the support and pulling the community together. So the Ministry of Education, as policy, has kept the National Literacy Team on board,
yes.
and are continuing to work with them to build the nation's momentum,
yes.
towards what we would want to call 100% literacy.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Miss Murray. There are so many, areas that we could touch on, but, we have to keep it tight, and we encourage other individuals to go out and get more information. So September 8th is International Literacy Day, and the theme, promoting literacy in the digital era. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was Shauna Murray, Enrichment Program Specialist with the National Literacy Team in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Lisa Rowe. Take good care.